Hello, everyone. We are live, and this is going to be for one of my authors' chats of the week. And I'll keep my eye out as everybody gets notified that I am up and running, and as well as keeping my eye out for my co-host. And then we'll be talking about books, writing, publishing, and everything in between. And it's been a great week. Actually, today is really neat because I just opened up my notifications. I know it's weird, this is different stages, but notifications for my upcoming Kickstarter. So if anybody wants to be notified for the launch of that particular one for my upcoming book, they can sign up so that they don't miss that opportunity. I mean, I'll be talking about it a lot, so hopefully that's not the case, but there's that aspect that you can sign up just to make sure you're notified and on that mailing list through the Kickstarter platform. And this will be for my upcoming book 5 of the Jed Chronicles, my young adult adventure and quest-based fantasy set in my magical multiverse. And this one's going to be a lot of fun for me because we will be deep diving in the world of dragons and dragonkin, along with a lot of the other realms, because being a magical multiverse, it's always fun to bounce around between different realities and deal with, of course, all the different kind of plots and subplots that are going on. But I'm excited about dragons. I've been waiting for this one for a while because I love dragons, if you can't tell. I have them everywhere. Let me make sure my volume is up. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. One second. I just got here. Like from and about.
You're good, you're good.
There we go. All right. Phone set up.
Yeah, no, I was just mentioning that I'm about to be running another Kickstarter, and so I just started the signups to be that notification signups today. So that's my big news of the day. And
that's exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be a big year for me in the sense that it's interesting because I'm going to be releasing less works, but doing more projects. And
I understand that perfectly.
Hello. Hello. It's been a moment, and I feel like every time I blink, you've released like 16 other books.
Yeah.
But how are you? How is everything going with the writing stuff and with your life in general?
Life in general is just pure chaos. I just tire screeched into my garage and shooed my children into my husband's arms because Wesley had blood drawn. He was at an allergist this morning because he's been covered in hives for a week, and he's getting ear tubes placed tomorrow, and Rosie had ear tubes placed a couple weeks ago. So it's just constant. Yes. But that's the age because they're 3 and 5.
Yeah, I was going to say my husband's side of the family, they have a lot of young ones, and there's always something with either a set of parents, and it is that age when they're that 2, 3, maybe even a 4-ish age range. So
yeah, it's now they're allergic to cashews, and now they need to see a doctor for this, and they have a lisp, and they need to see a speech therapist. It's always something.
I'll say I'm the queen of food allergies, so I understand. And it was probably around 3.5 where they started catching them for me. So it is that age. Yeah. But work-wise, I'll let you introduce yourself because you never know if anybody's new and doesn't know who you are, which if they don't, they should know who you are by now, and introduce what you write.
My name is Kennedy Sutton. I write mainly pirate romance, but I have kind of started edging into portal fantasy, and also historical romance just in general, with lots of swashbuckling adventure and sail to the ends of the earth to you romance. Yeah, and I've started releasing them on audiobook. My first 7-book series is almost completely released on audiobook now, and then I'll be starting on my complete trilogy, Silver Locket Origins. Mm-hmm. And this year I'm also not publishing as much so that I can focus on projects. So I'm recording more audiobooks. I am writing my next big series that I'm going to be rapid releasing in 2026 and 2027. I have 5 books written right now, more to come. But I like to have a whole series done before I release them. So that's kind of been my main focus this year, except for that time where I wrote a completely different standalone novel in February. I just took 3 weeks and dashed that out.
Sometimes it's nice to kind of, I call them, or I have been calling them palate cleansers, where either between series or even books of a series that you are inspired just to write something very, very different. And for whatever reason, it's refreshing and it goes really quickly. And all of a sudden you blink and you have a different book. And so next year, I've had a couple of these that I've been sitting on for a while, but I've written them in between other projects. And so I'm hoping the 26, I was like, what year are we on? 26 and 27. I can start releasing some of these either one-offs or duologies, but like smaller little bite-size series or independent ones versus my long series that I'm obsessed with.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. It's like I've written 12 books in this world, and then kind of all these in-between moments, like between books. You'll just write 80,000 words in something totally different. And I released my first one of those last fall, The Heart of the Thicket, which is just kind of like, here's a standalone portal fantasy set in Middle Tennessee. Enjoy.
Hey, and that's the thing is there is a subgroup of readers that prefer standalones. That's what they like. They don't necessarily want to be invested, especially in a long series. And it doesn't matter if the books are novellas or, these jumbo size. That's not what they want. Yeah. So that's what I'm hoping to is like now start releasing either duologies or standalones in between periodically of some of my longer running series, because different people like different things. And you may still enjoy my style of writing or the worlds that I create, but try to reach a wider audience in the sense that catering to the fact that not everybody is like me who wants to immerse yourself in a world for 45 books,
Yeah. It's like, no, I'm just going to live here indefinitely. Please continue writing these books forever.
But as an author, one, you invest so much of yourself in developing your worlds or universes or whatever you're doing, multiverses or whatever you're doing, but your characters and the worlds, you take so much time and care and attention to creating that we love them. We want to kind of be with them as much as possible. And it's kind of not necessarily a fun thing to say goodbye. I've finished up 2 series, and it's always a weird thing for me when I have to say goodbye to those people, characters, worlds, and move on.
Yeah, definitely. I feel that way about, so the Silver Locket books is 8 books and 7 books plus an 8th book where it's the first book as told from the male main character's point of view. And once I finished writing those, it was like, now what? I went into a total slump for weeks where it was just like, I don't know what to write because these are the people I want to spend my time with. And then I ended up writing Silver Locket Legacies, where I just continued that world, but like 15 years further into 15 years deeper, which has been an adventure. That's what I'm releasing next year.
I love that. And that is quite popular with people who, again, make these wonderful, rich worlds. You may have to say goodbye to characters, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to say goodbye to the world, or maybe you focus on a new set of characters, but you may have little hi, hello, how are you?
Have a little Easter bunny over here.
And again, interconnecting, and those are also really fun. But once you start releasing them, then it gets tricky because people are going to start asking, so where do I start? And depending on if you do like prequels, and then like you said, the time jumps to another series within the world, like how are you going to navigate people figuring out where do you start?
I always work really hard to make sure my series can be picked up anywhere. So if somebody finds Silver Locket Origins book 1 first, they can read that and then jump right into my 7-book series, which was actually released first, and just like make it seamless. And Silver Locket Legacies is like that. It's like, we're going to know some of the characters, we're going to meet some new characters, and if somebody picks that up, it's a complete book all on its own. You don't need to know the previous 8 books to understand it. But when you read those previous 8 books, you'll be like, oh.
That is just, again, that extra level of, just immersion in the world itself. So with this, you said it's a trilogy that you're going to be releasing next year?
So far, it's 5 books.
Okay, 5 books. Okay. Is that a heptology, or am I mixing that up? Pentology? No, what? There's a word for it.
I don't know. Right now, that's 5 books. I think there's probably going to be at least 6, maybe 7. And I just haven't written those 2 yet, but
feeling it out.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that kind of then answers one of my questions. So when you're writing a series, do you know how many books are going to be in there, or you just go in until it feels right? Okay.
I go until there's a natural ending. So like the Silver Locket books, there's 7 books in that series. I knew that the end was going to be a happy ending. And I knew vaguely what I wanted that to look like.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to get there until I felt like I had gotten there. And so it was just like every book, I was like, what's going to happen to them in this book? What's going to happen to them in this book? And it did come to a point when I finished book 6 that I was like, I think that's it. I think that's going to be it for Bennett and Jane. I think that this is the moment where we've reached our climax and we're going to start doing this toward the end of the series. And it just felt right. It felt like I had, it's terrible. I felt like I had put them through enough. And it was like, there, you've earned your happy ending. Go for it.
You are a nicer person than I can be. There are definitely series where I'm like, you think you want a happy ending? I'm not sure I'm going to give you one.
I mean, to be fair, my first trilogy is a prequel trilogy in that it takes place when Hugh Digby and Mickey Compton, 2 characters from the main series who are in their 30s in the 7-book series, are just meeting. And they're like 22 and 23. And they get this beautiful love story. It's full of angst and tragedy and beautiful romance and sail across the world for you, do anything for you feels. And then I give them this happy ending. But in book 1, you know that they didn't actually get a happy ending. So like you get to the next series and it's like, oh no. And it's like, yeah, I got you really invested there. My bad.
The hook and the draw into the next. No, that is kind of the fun thing of not just books and literature, but, TV shows and, movies. I mean, those are the things. It's like, are they happy? And then you're like, but wait, there's more. And you're like, oh, what are you going to do?
It's like that finale of Grey's Anatomy where they split the episode in half right at that point where it's like, oh no, I'm going to have to stay up until midnight and finish this.
I need to know, but that's what you want. You want readers enjoying your work so much that they have to know what happens next. And it doesn't matter. You can put out like 25 books and they have to know what happens next. Now, of course, if you pitch then a series of 25 books to someone who hasn't started along with you, that's a little daunting. So there is that. 7's manageable.
Yeah, I feel like and like I said, you just kind of, I cut them off when it feels right. Silver Locket Origins felt like a duology, but I really wanted to flesh out this happy ending I gave them at the end of book 2. So I wrote this whole book 3 that was just them sort of navigating new love. Book 7 in the main series kind of came to a natural, like a sigh of relief. And I feel like Silver Locket Legacies, I'm not sure where it's going to go yet. I just know that I think people are going to be really excited by what happens pretty much right out the gate, especially those who read the first series, because they're going to have known this kid when he was like 12. And now we're meeting him again when he's 25.
Wow.
And see what he's done, what he's doing, who he falls in love with, what adventures and misadventures he gets into. And, while still holding on to the part of his character that make him his people's favorite character.
I love that. I do love that. So the first time we ever talked, which it's been years and years, because we've done a couple of these, but yes. I remember early on in your publishing career, we were talking a lot about, you're passionate about certain areas of history, and this is what you pull from when you're writing your stories, and we were talking about your passions of the tall ships, et cetera, so on. So now that you've written so many in this world, have you noticed that the amount of research you do has dropped, or do you still research a lot of things, look in deep dive into the history of that time frame you're kind of aiming for just as much?
I usually, I've written a whole lot of books in these series now. Mm-hmm. And for example, I can write a Silver Locket book in 2 weeks. I can write an 80,000 word Silver Locket book in 2 weeks. And that's because there are certain beats that I am trying to hit. I know these characters like the back of my hand. I've written them into 13 books and just countless short stories. I think about them all the time. I write about them all the time. I know that world so well that it's just like, I know exactly what should go into these books to make it so that my readers are getting what they're expecting and that my characters are true to themselves. But when I pick up a new book, so in February, I wrote this different book, set in the same world so far. I might make it a historical. I haven't decided yet. It would be really easy to just shift it. But it takes place in a time period that was closer to about mid 19th century as opposed to early 18th century. And the ships are different, and the protocols, especially with Navy ships, are going to be different. And the landscape politically is going to be very different if we're jumping 100 years in the future. And I do base that off of colonial America for the most part. And so that involved a whole lot of new research. It's also telling the story of a ghost ship. So it's like basically the Flying Dutchman, but as told in a world where magic doesn't exist. So it's really just a bunch of pirates who are putting on this very dramatic show, and everyone knows that. But they've really spooked people, and these sailors are going to go out and try and sink this ship in order to get their pardons. And I was writing that book and found myself doing a whole lot of research. And also, when I read something, because this is my, like you said, it's my passion. This is what I'm interested in. I come up with questions all the time while listening to music or reading stories that then I will Google and fall into these deep rabbit holes of research. And then I take that and I put it into books. So it's really easy for me to be like, I wonder what that means, or I wonder where that idiom comes from. And then next thing you know, I'm writing a book on a whaling ship. And it's like, what do you know about whaling? And it's like, nothing. I guess I'm going to learn a whole lot about whaling really fast. So I still do a lot of research.
I definitely get it, because it got to the point where I had collected, and I have bookshelves on the history of the Viking era, sort of thing. So the peoples during the Viking era, and then of course everything I could grab and feed off of, essentially, of the text for the myths and everything. When I was doing my research for the Guardian Speaker, my retelling of Nordic myth. Yeah. But it got to a point where I kind of knew a lot of the groundwork. So yes, there would be something where I'm like, okay, I want to make sure I brush up on this, or I do have a question here. But it was fairly easy to write those stories. But now that one of the projects that I have is a retelling on Greek myth, it's a whole other area. It's a whole different animal. Yep, I had to, it starts over again. It's like, let's talk about the clothing and the food and the ecosystem and the geography of the locations, and it's all, the research. So even though writing the story in one weird way is really going really quickly because it's fun, it's fresh, I love it, but then I'm doing a lot of stop and goes because I'm like, wait, what would this be called?
Yeah. Or you get to parentheses and be like, insert name here.
I'm very bad about that. I'm like, no, but I must do it now. And then it's like, stop and go. But it is really neat to kind of, again, pull from history and put it into a work of fiction or fantasy and make it just tangible and fun for readership. And I see you have some shout outs coming up in the comments. Please see. I love that.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. I have a book with my editor right now, my developmental, and she's doing a developmental edit, which I've never done before. Mm-hmm. And part of that is because I've switched genres to more of a historical fantasy, alt history. I also, it's set more medieval fantasy. And medieval warfare, and also is like heavily based in monasteries and like religious sects of the time. And that has been just a blast to research the history of and what these different countries were like. And it's sort of a play on England and France at the time, and that they're these two warring countries. They're not all that dissimilar, despite what everybody seems to think. And then like there's the strip of water that keeps them apart, and then there's just like constant battles over who owns what, and that's kind of like the scene that this opens. And it was the same thing. You just like Like, we're going to start all over again. What do I need to know about castle fortifications? What do I need to know about, what is this called? What is this article of clothing referred to as? Why would women wear veils versus not wear veils, and in what context?
It's a lot of fun, and like for me, it struck me one time. I remember who had this conversation with me. It was my husband or a fellow author, but I kept buying all these books, which I was using as research, but they weren't books on writing craft or marketing, but they were what I was using as part of my research, and it got to the point where I'm like, oh, that's part of my business expenses, so because it is, and so
tax deductible.
It is deductible, exactly, and so it's been kind of neat too, because I write what I enjoy, and I enjoy what I write, and it goes back and forth. So it is nice being able to read research work that I'm having a lot of fun with, because I find it fascinating. I'm enjoying it, and I'm going to write it in a way that a person who doesn't want to deep dive in history or myth going to appreciate the story, and it's not going to overwhelm you, though I want to know all the things.
Yeah. I'm the same way. It's like, no, they don't need to know what this particular sailor knot is called, but I want to know what this particular sailor knot is called.
Yes. And I see another comment. Hi, saying the Pirate Stories Sanderson Speed Writer. I like that. I like that title for you. But as I said, you write, you can turn around, but you also know your story so intimately, and like you said, the beats and everything, that you are able now to turn around a book in that world really quickly.
Yes.
But it is very interesting because I write a variety of projects, and so I always publishing in multiple series, or a standalone here, as I was mentioning, for next year, and a long series there. But certain series or certain books I can write really fast. Others take a lot of time for the same amount of words.
That one that my editor has right now, it's probably going to be at least a duology, maybe a trilogy. And it's the reason I sent it to her is because it's like, I don't actually know what I'm doing. And what I did with the Silver Locket books is I wrote the first 7 books without it ever seeing an editor and with no intention to publish. And then when I decided to publish, I sent her book 1, and she was like, all right, so here are the things that you're doing that are wrong. And you need to go through all the next 6 books that you've already written and fix it before you send it to me. And I was like, I want to avoid doing that. I want to avoid all of the many rewrites that I had to do. Just like, tell me how to write this genre first, and then I'll write book 2. And so, but that book definitely took some time, and I had to almost switch my brain to a different mode, because it was like, why am I going so slow? I feel like I'm getting nothing done. Maybe this book is just terrible, and that's why it's so hard to write. And it's like, no, it's just that you haven't written 12 of them. Yeah. The Sneaky Lass took me 3 years to write, and every book got faster after that. It's just like to switch my thinking to be like, it's okay. It's a whole different book and a whole new genre and a whole new world. We're just pause.
Hey, I love that. And that's really good. I will counter and say I have the opposite of one of my series. It's going to be the longest series yet, but because it's the one that deals with a multiverse, so the cast is wildly huge, and there's so much going on that each book gets more complex and builds and builds. And so I've had so much trouble writing the 6th book, because it's like, whoa, how am I going to do this? And I keep stepping away, doing another project, coming back and be like, okay, let's try this again. But now it's going. I got over that hump for this book, and I was like, okay. But it is interesting because everybody approaches different projects, and it was totally different when I was doing the novella series. So I had 16 of them, and it got to the point where I was like, I got it. Different type of story.
Exactly.
So this has nothing to do with books, but I discovered relatively recently, and if you haven't heard of him, you might enjoy him, but he's a singer, performer here on this platform, as well as any other places that you get music, and he calls himself Sail North, and he's all about sea shanties. Okay, I was gonna say, if you haven't heard of him, you should, because I stumbled upon him and I was like, I know, I meant to send you that behind the scenes. I was like, have you heard of him? Because you would enjoy it, I think.
No, that's my primary music, is sea shanties. So I listen to a lot of The Longest Johns. I listen to a lot of Sail North. There's a couple bands that do some fantastic work, and some more like he's really added an interesting rock pop modern twist to them that is really
definitely modern.
Yeah, as opposed to say the High Kings, who take songs that were written 300 years ago and then sing them exactly the way they were written 300 years ago. So
that's true.
There's always there's a give and take to that I really enjoy.
Oh yeah. And I've been having fun because I've started an endeavor. I'm horrible at marketing it, but started an endeavor of creating a Patreon, and you'll see if anybody wants to jump on the bandwagon. But that's where I'm releasing early access to my unpublished Greek myth retelling. And some of the things that I was having fun, like, well, if people want to join in, what are some of the perks I can give out to them? And I was coming up with different playlists. I'm like, well, it's a Greek mythology playlist. Do I do something that's like the ambient soundtrack? Do I do with the music scores that I could vision if it was a movie? Or do I do, and one of the ones I came up with is modern day mythology. So if my character was taken out of the era and plopped into modern day, what would she be listening on to her soundtrack? And it's just really fun to do. So I like pairing soundtracks with books. I don't know if you've ever done that with any of your stories.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I have songs that inspire my stories, but I've never created a soundtrack to be like, everybody listen to this. I did take one of my dear friends and one of my earliest readers. She's been with me from the beginning. She came to Nashville. We went to go see the High Kings together. And it was so much fun. We were at the Country Music Hall of Fame, and they were singing all of these songs, and she would ask me between songs, what did that mean? What was that about? And I would tell her before a song, be like, oh, this is the song that inspired that part in this book. Which was just a lot of fun to go do.
I love that. And that's so cool to be able to go and see a group like that who has resonated with you live. I bet that was just a wonderful experience.
I was never much of a concert person. And then that same reader, she's actually she's the sweetest lady, don't get me wrong, but so outgoing that she read my book as part of my ARC team, and then reached out to me and was like, I'm going to be driving near where you live. Do you want to meet for lunch? And I was like, I mean, if you don't murder me, sure. And we met for lunch and just hit it off like that. And so ever since, she'll drive through Nashville to go and see this band that she kind of follows around. Mm-hmm. And she invited me to go, and we had so much fun together, even though it wasn't my music. It was this very kind of a 2008 pop rock sound. Okay. And I was like, oh, this is not what I listened to at all, but I had so much fun. The energy in the room was so good. And then I was like, I want to do that again. So I took her to go see The Longest Johns. We met in the middle because she lives in Orlando. We met in Atlanta to go see The Longest Johns and had so much fun, even though she was like, I don't listen to sea shanties. I was like, come listen to sea shanties with all of us. Yeah. Oh yeah, I was just asked, are you doing any book signings this year? I am.
But okay, you can expand upon that.
I am doing Sinful signings in Roanoke, Virginia in July, which is always a blast. I am doing Tennessee LitCon right here in Tennessee, which is going to be in August, I think. And then I am doing Booked in Chaos in North Carolina in October.
Nice, fun. Yes, going to live events is just an amazing way to not only meet potential new readers, but also connect with some people who may have been following you or think it's really neat to finally meet you face to face. So yes. I think that's great. And anytime you come down to the Atlanta area, let me know, because that's my neck of the woods. So
yeah. We're really not that far from each other. I'm only 3.5 hours from Atlanta.
That's true. And the funny thing is, it sounds like you travel more for signings. I should be better at that because I kind of stick around Atlanta and I haven't really made a lot of effort at this moment to travel to other states to do some signings. But there are some really neat opportunities for authors, depending on your genre, all around on the.
Yeah, definitely check out Sinful in Roanoke though. That's like a family. Every time I go, I just leave feeling better and it's like a big party. Everybody is so nice and it's so much fun.
Now, is it a romance-focused one? Just based on the name, for whatever reason, my mind goes, this must be for romantic writers, and I'm not a writer of romance.
I would say that the vast majority of people there are holding books that have black covers with roses and skulls on them.
Yeah.
But my friend Kirsha Fox goes and she writes straight like D&D fantasy, D&D inspired fantasy. My friend Samantha Moran goes and she writes horror. I go and I write pirates. So there's really a big mix, and you know, it's kind of like angled toward romance readers, but I have had really good sales there, just showing up and being who I am.
I love it. And I mean, I hear about it all the time. It's definitely popular in the writing communities. I'll be honest, I never looked into it just because the name made me think, okay, this is for people who are listing heavily into the romantic side of fiction and fantasy and whatnot, and I'm not there.
I would say that most of the events I go to are romance-inspired events, and most of the events that I go to, there are always people who aren't selling romance, and they do fine. I think that romance is just kind of the biggest genre, and it's definitely the biggest genre on Book Talk. And so when you learn about these events through Book Talk, they're kind of like, come on, Book Talk readers, like join us, and they're angling that way. But it's sort of like how I got sucked into the Romantasy author group. They were like, oh yeah, Kennedy, she's a Romantasy author. And I'm like, I'm not, but it's nice that you guys invited me along.
I have a question for you then, even though you don't identify as a romantasy writer, you know a bunch of them. Here's my question. This is for an upcoming standalone. And I keep going back and forth. Is it romantasy or is it not? Does romantasy inherently mean the ending has to be happy? Here's a question. Because by definition, you go online, it says romance plus fantasy. That is it. But are people like expecting, is there like an unspoken expectation that if you cater it, it has to have a happy ending?
I feel like the series has to have a happy ending, but every book does not.
Okay.
And that's probably, I don't know. I don't know if that opinion holds water. I just know that that's how I've viewed it. Like, my editor has told me before I don't technically write romance because every book doesn't have a happily ever after or like a happy for now. But every single one of my readers has been cool with me calling it romance and has defended to the death that I am a romance writer. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, we get there.
We get there. It just takes a few books.
Yeah, the plot centers around all romance.
It's called slow burn for a reason.
Yes. I always warn people right up front. I'm like, it's very angsty.
I like that.
You will experience angst before we get to the end.
I love that. And I did see a comment back there for you, inviting you to Alabama for some kind of book event. Now, the question is, you would have to say, if you know of a book event in Alabama, that's the thing.
There is one, and Terry goes to it every year, and every year I want to go, and I can't because of scheduling stuff. So, like, this year,
it's far to travel for you.
Yes, and it's right down the road. It's like an hour and a half from here. It would be so easy to just just pop down to Alabama and do this book event, and I could drive right back up. It's a one-day thing, and every single year it always falls on like, oh, that's the year my mom's having dental surgery and I have to pick her up, or that's the same weekend as Booked in Chaos, or whatever it is, and it's been just an absolute shame.
It is hard. It's hard. There is this things that as authors we also have lives, and then there are the things in our lives outside of the writing community can affect what we are capable of as authors. So it goes in this round and round thing. So I get it. I definitely do. And there's the other aspects of time and money and your ability, because having kids and everything, like what you have to do there versus here. So I get it. But it could be on your bookish bucket list.
Yes. I know. She just said they stepped up their game. It's in a convention center this year. I'm gonna look at that weekend and see. I would really love to go. like a whole bunch of my friends go, and a whole bunch of my readers are in there, and I'm just like, like I said, it's right down the road, and I love Alabama. It's one of my favorite places to go to. It's a beautiful drive. I want to go. But yes, I do have 2 high needs kids, and I am their primary caretaker, and it's always kind of right at the beginning of the school year. I always have to be very careful about events because like Wesley started kindergarten this year, and it was like, well, what if he's really struggling and then I leave for 3 days to go to a book event? Like I can't do anything from September to October. And so there was a whole lot of that. And then next year, Rosie's starting, well, hopefully starting preschool, and she's going to have a full-time aide because of her autism diagnosis. And so I'm just like, well, I just gotta be here, and it's a shame. Terry asked how my babies are doing. They're doing really well. There's a whole bunch of little things that we have to do right now, but everybody generally happy, healthy, thriving, growing.
That's what we want to hear. Definitely want to hear, but yeah, and that it's part of life. It would be an ideal situation. Oh yeah, I could do all these things and be with my kids and go on the mega trip across the world that I would but it's a juggle, and you have to figure out what you're capable with, what your priorities are, and go from there. So I definitely do. But as you already mentioned, you have 3 more events at least this year for people to come and see you, so there's that going. I know in a couple weeks I will be yeah, because Easter's this weekend. Okay, so the weekend after Easter, yeah, I'll have one of my live signing events, and I'll be a panelist and all that kind of stuff at Jordan Con in Atlanta. But it's again, they're just fun to be able to do it. If you're able to do it, that's great. And if not, that's why we have platforms like this, and we go from there. Actually, this brings a great point. As I always say, if this platform's nice, most of the time it is, sometimes it's funky, I'll repurpose this video and put it on my YouTube and put all your contact information down below. So if anybody wants to reference this or hopefully discover you in the future, they can. But for everybody listening
at any moment.
Yeah, I know. But that goes to the thing, goes to one of my questions I always like to ask is, where can people get your books? Are you wide right now? Are you exclusive to Zon? Do you sell direct? The basics.
Well, I am mostly, all of my books are available on Amazon. Mm-hmm. I am not wide. I am in Kindle Unlimited. Mm-hmm. And that's where I meet most of my readers. I like to keep them there, and I will for as long as I can possibly afford to. We'll see how that goes. There's politics to that, that I won't get into. But I make most of my revenue by selling signed copies at my Etsy shop. And that is the best place to get them. You get the book, you get it signed, you get it with character art, and and it's the same price as it is on Amazon. And I often run sales. I always have the code going, happy sailing will get you 20% off. And that's just because if you buy a book direct from me, I can make $10. And if you buy a book for the same price from Amazon, I make $4. So it's just, I always try to direct people there if they are in the market for my books. I'm like, please go buy the signed books. I also do a lot of donations through that. So I'll, just this month, March, I ran a fundraiser for my birthday and raised almost $100 for Vanderbilt Children's Hospital because I can afford to donate half my proceeds from my Etsy shop because I make a higher margin. And so 50% of all the books sold went right to Vanderbilt Children's Hospital. So I try to do good works that way too.
Yeah, and you do those, I feel like you do this relatively regularly, which is one of the most amazing things, that you use your ability to be able to kind of have that loophole, find a way to technically earn more, but then because you can, you're able to then donate some of that to a great cause. And so, anytime I hear about one of your events, I try to share it as much as possible because, if more people did what you did, the world would be a happier place.
Yes. And I try, last summer, there was a little girl, and she was dying of brain cancer, and her parents weren't someone that I knew. They're friends of my editor. And I knew this family because my daughter had a brain tumor. Their daughter had a brain tumor. And their daughter got sick and died. And she was actively dying when I ran this big fundraiser to try and get their GoFundMe up to $20,000 so that they could afford to take her to all the places that she wanted to go while she was still here, and also afford her funeral expenses. And it was amazing to see. We were able to raise almost $6,000 and get that over the $20,000 mark. And people came up to me after that. There were so many authors that donated their books toward that, and so many people donated money toward that. And people would come up to me at events who I had never met and be like, "You're the one who ran the fundraiser for that sick little girl." And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." But I do. I feel like I feel like it's my duty as a human being to try and help people when I can. And I don't have a lot of money, but I do have a lot of pirate romance. So I am saving the world through pirate romance. And that's what my donation page done through Monroe Carroll Jr.'s hospital at Vanderbilt has that in my banner, saving lives through pirate romantasy or something like that. And I get these letters in the mail from them that are like, "Thank you for saving lives through pirate romance." And you're welcome, Vanderbilt.
You're welcome. That is just one of the most phenomenal things. And you are an amazing, amazing, incredible person for doing stuff like that. So, like I said, I continue to share them anytime I see that. If I can help support, I will. But like, it's more people need to be like you. No, let me also ask, because I know that hour is going to start picking up. It always is around this point. But where can people find and follow you if they want to continue to find you outside of Book Talk? Because at least in the U.S., you never know. Because it's yo-yo game right now. But where can people find you? Do you have a website? Do you have a newsletter? What other socials, if any?
I do have a website. And on that website, there's a lot of ways to sign up for my newsletter. I don't pester people. I only send out newsletters when I have releases or things going on. So that's the best way to find out about new releases, about when I release an audiobook, when I'm running sales. That's where you should join, is my newsletter. I'm also on Instagram as author Kennedy Sutton. I'm on Threads as author Kennedy Sutton. And I have a Facebook fan group, Kennedy Sutton Silver Locket Crew, where I post all of my excerpts and character art ahead of time. And it's really kind of like my Patreon, but I give it to you for free. So, like, that's where all my besties hang out.
It's the cool kids club. I hear.
Kids club. I always go to them first because I'm like, okay, you guys, I have a couple of books with dense or bent pages that I got in this shipment, and I'm selling it for just the shipping price. Who wants it? And I always go there first, and there's always somebody who wants it. It's just, they're a cool group of folks.
I love that. And it's smart for authors to be on more than one platform. You don't have to be on all of them. I say that way because I have to tell myself that. You don't have to be on all of them, but it's always good to have multiple because you never know what will happen to one, and just so that people can keep in contact in case things go south for whatever reason. So, and having a fun group, a readers group on any platform is really neat to be able to kind of build that community outward. So that's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. I created that like the same week I released book one, because people read book one and then messaged me and were like, "Where can I talk to other people who have read this book?" And I was like, I better invent a place where people can talk about this book.
Do it. I mean, that is the great thing, because then it bolsters community and makes these connections within the reading group, that it's nice to be involved to some extent as an author, but it's also nice to like step back and see them just.
Yes. Also, I feel like I kind of lost my train of thought, but I feel like with those groups, people feel like they're your friend. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they're my friend. And so when I send out ARCs, a lot of my ARC team are in that group, and they will message me like a play-by-play as they read through my book. And It's like, that just feels so good to know that somebody feels safe enough with me and is enjoying my book enough to have like constant comments that they want to tell me as they go. And that's one of the highlights of my job, is when somebody's like, is it okay if I just sit here and message you?
I love that. And I did see the question pop up. What is your current work in progress? I know you have a few, but what is the next one up that people can expect?
Let's see. The next book that I'm going to publish is probably going to be as early as the end of this month, maybe early May. And it's going to be a book of short stories centered around Hugh Digby and Michael Mason. And then the next thing that I am working on is going to be I'm sorry, my husband's out the window.
He's probably like, help me.
Like, you just don't watch. I mean, you're talking to my phone. So I'm going to be releasing that story, and it's about novella length, about 50,000 words. I'm also putting together another short story compilation of, I've been calling it The Boys in my head, and that's centered around John and Harry Bennett when he was younger, Mickey Compton when he was a young man. Just stories of like what my characters were like when they were young men on ships.
Oh, I love that.
And then of course I have the book with the editor right now. And that's going to be this kind of medieval fantasy that doesn't yet have a title. I had a title for it, but apparently everybody I told it to was kind of like, that's a little convoluted. Which a lot of my titles are, to be fair. I have 3 pieces in anthologies coming out this year. Yeah, one of them as early as I'm supposed to be posting about it today.
Do it after this.
Yeah, I'll do that after this. And then I'm working on Silver Locket Legacies. So I'm really trying to get it so that book 1 for that is ready to come out at the end of this year. And then I will be releasing the next book in that series over the course of the next 2 years, every 3 months. So rapid release style, just like I did the first series.
That's exciting. It is. It really is. And I love when I'm able to do release quicker. And so that's what I had a big push for a number of years when I was doing my novella series, because I could release 4 a year and plus 1 book in my full-length series that's totally different. And that was a lot of fun. But like I said, this year, it's going to be very different. It's my reboot year where I'm working behind the scenes, building up for the next few years, kind of like what you were saying, and doing new projects like the Kickstarter I'm about to launch. And then I'm doing my first special edition book Kickstarter towards the end of the year. So I'm working behind the scenes with hiring all different kind of artists and designers to put everything together to have some really cool stuff. But it's a project year. So there's going to be some fun things out there, but it's not necessarily 5 new releases, you know?
No, I know exactly what that's like. I kept telling people, like, Kennedy Sutton is taking a minute to rebuild her brand. Everybody just like, please stand by while Kennedy does some writing, because for the last 3 years I've released 4 books a year.
Yeah.
Sometimes 5. And I just, I felt like I wasn't getting any time to write anything new because I was always prepping for the next release. So it's been a little bittersweet and hard to be like, I'm just going to step back. Mm-hmm. What are you working on right now? It's like, I'm working on a lot of stuff right now.
Yes.
I'm going to see all of it in a year or so.
Patience. This is the patience year. We're going to test everybody and see what level of patience
you have. Remember who I am in January of next year? Well, we're going to find out.
Yes. Absolutely. And actually, before we run out of time for this hour, I do want to go back to what you mentioned really a little while ago towards the beginning, because you're doing something that I do not have the talent of. You're narrating your own books. So how is that going for you, and how are you enjoying that process? Breathe. It's a safe space.
I really enjoy narrating books. I don't have enough time to narrate books, which is very frustrating, because I have 2 small children, and so I can only narrate after they have both gone to bed, and it has to not be too hot, because if it's too hot, I have to run the AC in the house, and so it's like I have a couple of months of the year where I can narrate books from about 8 p.m. until 10 p.m., and then I have to go to bed. And so it's just like, I really enjoy doing it. I wish I had one whole day a week where I could just sit in the closet and record my books. But I'm frustrated with how long it takes for me to do that. But I really do enjoy the process, especially now that I know what I'm doing. It was the steepest learning curve I think I've ever undertaken to learn how to do it. And I bought fantastic books, to like the best little book that I ever bought, 60 pages. And it was written by a lady named Renee Conalti, who narrated her own audiobooks. And then was like, here is what you need to know in order to do this. Here are the programs you need to get. Here's what your room needs to look like. Here is the type of microphone you need to buy. Here are several links that you can follow to buy those microphones. You know, like, just really babied me through the process. And then it was a lot of just hassling people who knew more than I did. So popping into a lot of DMs of audiobook narrators who I kind of knew and being like, hey, I have a question. Or, you know, I would be in a Facebook group with audiobook narrators, and then I would see somebody, a sound engineer, talking about something kind of complex that seems like it would be good for me to know. And then I would just message them and be like, hello, this is going to seem creepy because I'm just popping into your DMs, but if you could tell me more about what you were talking about, I think I need to know about that. And it was amazing how that community came out to help me. And we're so willing to be like, no, let's get on a live together and I will walk you through this. Let's do a video call. Let's do a Zoom. Give me a call. Tell me what you're seeing. Tell me what you're hearing and let me help you. And so I really try to put that forward now that I have done a couple of books of my own. I also did a book for Caitlin Brooke, which was a lot of fun. Just trying, that is a very not gatekeepy community in my experience, at least not among the indies. And it was so much fun to be a part of that. And I'm excited to continue doing it, that so many authors reach out to me and say, where do I get started? And I can be like, here's how I got started.
No, that's great. And I don't know, I feel like that maybe it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that my experience with the book community has been mostly really, really good. And everybody seems to be just, open and sharing. And I know that's not the case for everybody. There's clearly drama that thankfully I'm so removed from it that I hear. So there was drama today. I'm like, I don't know about it. I don't know if I want to know about it. I just like my happy space. But the people I've gotten to meet and enjoy and communicate and connect with, everybody just seems to be willing and sharing and all that stuff. So one of the reasons why I like doing these events, these lives, is because I feel like I learn something every time I'm on here, and I'm so happy to share anything that I've learned, though most likely you've learned it too, and probably in a better way. But it's nice to be able to do these because you never know who's going to pop in, listen, and be like, that's what I needed to know, or I have a question, and it's just a sharing community. And I'm glad that you've had such a good experience, even though you had such a big learning curve to figure that out.
I'd never edited anything more complicated than a TikTok video before I was like, I think I'm going to record an entire audiobook and learn how to edit sound files, so I did admittedly record the first half of The Sneaky Lass like 3 times, because I did it the first time and was like, well, that's not the way I want it to sound. And I did it the second time and was like, this is better. I can probably keep some of this. And then by the third time I was like, all right, I sound the way I want to sound. And when I edit it, it meets the standards that it has to meet in order to be uploaded to these audiobook sharing sites and that sort of thing. And after that, I've learned a little bit more to make the process faster and easier with each book. And so now I'm doing my 7th book, and it's gotten to where I have it down to a little bit of a science. Yeah. I feel like I should say that with the caveat that I'm still just a baby audiobook narrator. But definitely. And as far as gatekeeping, yes, I don't believe in gatekeeping. I always tell people gatekeeping is lame. I also spray the edges of my own books, and I'm like more than happy to be like, you guys want to learn how to do that? I will show you. Let me.
That's something that I've been debating of, should I add that bit of knowledge to my repertoire just to have. I'm not ready yet, but I'm getting ready. I'm actually, my husband and I, we got a new house about a little over a year ago. And we're doing some remodeling. Once that's done, I'll have space for projects. And that's one of those I'm debating about. Huh? Sorry, what was that?
Do it in the garage.
That's true. But the garage, the problem is my husband took over the garage, so.
They tend to do that, right?
We all have our own spaces, and so I'll need a little project space. But no, that's really cool that you're able to do that as well. And let me also ask, because I don't know if you mentioned earlier, where can people find your audiobooks? I know you said KU for ebooks, and you have Etsy available if you want signed copies and stuff like that. But where are your audiobooks distributed through?
For now, they are distributed through Audacity, which is through Amazon. But if anybody wants to listen to them and give it a try, I have a whole bunch of codes that I would be more than happy to send somebody in exchange for reviews. So they can just reach out to me and I'll give them one.
I like that. And that's always nice too, because the ability to be able to have those codes or give them out to people and as like thank you gifts or, rewards or just because you can.
Yeah. Most of the people who have given my audiobooks a try were people that I met at Sinful who were interested in my pitch, but didn't necessarily, they only read audiobooks. Mm-hmm. So once I had audiobooks, I went to those Facebook pages that were set up for Sinful signings and was like, hey, everybody, you might have met me last summer. I have these audiobooks now. And if you would like to listen to them in exchange for a review, I will just give them to you. And now I have sort of an ARC team that I created all by myself of just,
that's great.
Yeah, just these people who listened to the first one for free and now they get a code every time because they listen to it and review it immediately. And it was just part of that community I was telling you about. The signings people are like, they're really into books and those are my kind of people.
Yeah, I guess I need the things I think about and I didn't think about before is the fact that, I now started, this past year, I started allowing my audiobooks to be widely distributed. So they're on anything from, pretty much all the big sites, Spotify, but I also sell them through my website shop and I have the capability to distribute them for free to whomever. I'm like, I never thought about creating an art group just for audio. The things you learn. See, I learned something new every time.
Also, Molly Breyer, who is an audiobook narrator and an author, and she got started narrating by narrating her own books. Mm-hmm. She reached out to me, listened to The Sneaky Lass, and was like, you're doing great. Also, I have this whole group of people who read and review my audiobooks. Do you want me to ask if any of them are interested in yours? And so I also kind of borrowed hers. And so there's that option too. People who are just like, yeah, your books are a little bit like my books. Audiobooks are expensive. Let's make this happen.
I love that. And that's always a great thing is when you're able to do book swaps. I love book swaps. I am a collector of signed copies. So I'm always, whenever I have an author and I was like, I want your book. And they're like, I want your book. I was like, you want to swap?
Yes.
It is a great thing. It's a great thing to do. But okay, let me ask everybody who's listening, as well as you, Kennedy. Is there any topic you wanted to cover that we didn't get to cover? Any questions that you haven't had a chance to ask? Any announcements? That this is that perfect time.
You know what? I'm going to use this time to help out a friend. There's this little bookish tea shop. It's called Petals Tea Shop, and it is owned by a bookish, very kind woman named Lynn. And she has a space, you can find her, Petals Tea Shop here on TikTok and on Facebook. But she has a physical shop space where she sells teas that are based on books and bookish tropes. She's also made a tea for my book, The Heart of the Thicket. It's called A Mother's Soul. So she makes these tea blends herself out of organic teas and organic ingredients. And she is opening a little indie bookstore within her tea shop space and running a Kickstarter for it right now. So everybody, I think, should go and check out this lady at Petals Tea Shop here on TikTok or on Facebook or on Instagram and support her Kickstarter because she is doing the dream that we all want to do. She was opening a tea shop and bookshop and trying to support small indie authors. It's a woman-owned business, and it's the best tea you'll ever drink. And I'm a tea snob.
I love that. I made my notes. I always make notes, and now that I've been smart and learned to keep a sticky note next to me when I do these lives, so I have that there. Because yes, between the tea group and the coffee group, we all like to pair something with the books we read.
Yes. And she does, like, all of the big books that are out right now. She has a tea blend for them, and they're all just like, she has a tea blend for everyone. I know so many people who didn't think they liked tea until they tried hers. It's just a whole different thing from the bags you buy at the grocery store. And I feel like what she's doing is really special. Every sale of her tea donates a book to a child in need. She picks a different foundation each month to help build their libraries up. And it's just a good cause. So that's the cause I'm championing right now.
I love that. And that was Petal's Tea Shop. And there's Kickstarter on right now. I love that. Do you have a link to that Kickstarter through your link, or is that just something you're recommending us?
I'll add it.
I don't know. I was just asking because I will admit, being on both sides of the Kickstarter, sometimes it's hard to search for what you want. Even if you're putting in the name, there's just so much going on that platform. So links are always good. So that's what I was asking.
I'll send you the link, and you can put it in the description of this video.
Yes, I love that. And how long do you know how long this the Kickstarter is running?
I think it's running for the next 60 days.
Okay, good. Then yes, I'll definitely make sure, because I'm hoping to share this video next Monday. So yeah.
Yes,
so
it'll still be going then.
Perfect. Okay, yes, send me the link. And we have hit the end of the hour, and the reason why I'm keeping it about an hour is because I have two crazy dogs. One's a good boy. The other one is a 1.5-year-old husky.
That tells you everything you need to know.
So she's a lot. But it is about that time for me to let them out of their crate so they can stretch and not start bemoaning in the background.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and thank you so much for coming in and enjoying this hour to catch up with you yet again. And I always love talking with you. You are such an inspiration, not only to me, but I know to the people who follow you and just love not only your stories in your books, but what you do for your community.
Thank you.
It's true. It's true. Accept it. But I unfortunately have to go. So until next time, Kennedy, I will say goodbye. And thank you for everybody who's come and listened to us chit-chat about books.
You caring. Bye,
everyone.
Bye.